Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our video blog, Normalness is Abnormal. Today we came home from Ohio, and in our whole trip, basically nothing interesting happened. It has been a very long and a very tiring day. And so instead of telling you something interesting or extraordinary that happened today, I'm going to tell you a joke. And it starts with, there was this man. And this man worked at a trash man company. He worked at a company that would take care of all different kinds of trash, toxic waste, all that stuff. And he actually had one of the few office jobs in the company. He wasn't a trash man. He didn't go ride around on trucks, but he worked there, and in the office next to his, there was this woman. And she was the loveliest woman he had ever seen in his entire life. From the first day she started working there, he fell in love with her. And he could not stop thinking about her. He thought about her constantly. And he was so in love with her that he was really, really, really just in a daze because of how much he loved her. And he would try to do really nice things for her, but she never paid any attention to him. He would do all kinds of things, like he would make her coffee in the morning and bring it to her, but she just didn't seem interested. Then one day, their company, that branch of it, was going to have a dance, and he knew who he had to ask to the dance. And so that night, he tried to get up the courage to ask her to the dance. And he laid awake all night till he finally cried himself to sleep because he could not get up the courage, and it meant so much to him. And so finally, he just decided that he was going to ask her no matter what, and if she turned him down, he was going to be unhappy for the rest of his life. And the rest of his life, he thought, probably would not be very long. So he calls her, and he's really depressed. He's almost in tears. He's doing all he can to hold it together. And he asks her if she will go to the dance with him. And surprisingly, after she kind of stutters for a little bit, she says yes. As he says goodbye, he just crumples to the floor and begins sobbing, partly out of relief, partly out of joy, partly out of sadness, because he doesn't think she could ever love him like he loves her. So he arranges a big fancy way to pick her up. He wants to get a chauffeur and a limousine. So he calls up his friend who deals in limousines. He's a used car salesman. And the man, he's the kind of used car salesman that uses an electric drill to turn back the speedometer. And so he calls the guy, and he's trying to get a limousine to pick up the girl. And it doesn't work out because the man is actually, he has to be in court that day because he's had a lawsuit against him for stealing some cars, or for also ripping people off, because he was a used car salesman, and as we know, most of them are pretty dishonest. So that doesn't work out, and he's just devastated because he had envisioned this amazing night in his mind. It was going to be so awesome, and he was going to be so charming. He even thought about, kind of putting on a little British accent just to seem a little more debonair. But he unfortunately had a thick, deep Southern accent like that, and he thought she could never love a guy like that because she was all proper and prim. So he borrows his stepmother's Hummer, which gets terrible gas mileage. As you know, Hummers get bad gas mileage. So he spends a fortune get into her house to pick her up. And he worked at a trash company, so the dude's not really, he doesn't have a lot of extra money, but he doesn't even think twice about it because he knows it's worth it. So he picks her up and takes her to the dance, and the way to the dance is the most awkward silence he's ever experienced. He can't find the right words to say. All they talk about is the weather over and over and over again, and they just talk about the same things, which only the weather, that's as far as they get. But then at the dance, everything changes. So at the dance, they get a table and they sit down, and then the music comes on, and he doesn't ask her to dance because he is really, really, really embarrassed, and he thinks this is probably a terrible idea to ask her out to this dance. And then, all of a sudden, she takes his arm, and he doesn't know how it happens. They take the floor, and she looks deep into his eyes, and she says, "Oh, don't you dare look back. Just keep your eyes on me." He says, because he's feeling really like he doesn't know what's going on, he says, "You're holding back." And she just says, "Shut up and dance with me." So they dance and dance and dance, and he turns out to be an amazing dancer, and it's just like magic. The whole evening is just so magical, and they are both falling in love, and they just, everybody in the whole room notices them because of how much they are in love. And so they dance and dance and dance for hours. The time just flies by on silver wings. And so after they dance, they're both really tired. And she's so thirsty, she can barely speak. And she says to him, "Please, would you go get me some punch?" And he just wants to do anything he can for her. Even though he's exhausted, he manages to get up and go look for the punch bowl. And he starts to look for the punch bowl. And he's prepared to wait for a while because there are a lot of people there. And everybody takes forever getting their punch. So he's prepared to wait in line for a long time to get a drink for the girl he loves. And then he finds the punch bowl, and there's no punch line. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is today's video blog. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching our video blog, Normalness is Abnormal. Remember, kids, God made you special, and He loves you very much. Goodbye!